The greatest failure in communication is the misperception that it actually happened. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I want you to know that communication is not the only place where we think we have properly articulated our ideas, that we have laid out the groundwork for other people to understand and participate with us toward a common goal. In fact, I think the other area that is equally as challenging is expectations. I used to work for Jobs.com as a national sales rep, and I can tell you that one of the most common conversations that I had was with people who were trying to put job posts out there, and when they would put the words together, I would look at them and go, that's really vague. And I have to be honest and say, if I were to apply for that job, I would have no idea what things to put in my resume to make me look like the right candidate for that job, even if I've done exactly the same job, because the job description doesn't have any kind of expectations in it. It doesn't tell me what you're looking for other than someone who's willing to show up and fog a mirror. All the ethereal words that are there, they don't really tell me anything. Maybe you've actually worked in a workplace where the environment is like that, where no one is praised for their grand successes, but everyone is punishment for missing expectations because no one has ever clearly expressed what the expectations are. I'm sure there's somewhat of a job description. There might even be some targeted goals up on the wall for what the company's gross sales are going to look like, or how many customers we're going to serve in a period of time, or how much churn we're going to move through in product preparedness and getting it out the door in a warehouse environment or something like that. But the real level of expectations of the kind of person that you'll be, the way that you'll show up in your team, the things that you're going to bring to the table, the attitude that you'll maintain, the sales objectives are one thing, but the human objectives, those are totally different things. And I find often that that's the expectation that gets overlooked. It's also the expectation that gets missed. As John Maxwell says, we tend to hire people for what they know, all the content on their resume. We tend to fire them for who they are, all the content in their character. But see, if your only expectations that are clearly laid out are to do with sales goals, objectives, tasks, education levels, skill sets, then the chances are somewhere along the way, you're going to find someone whose character is not up to the expectations of the organization, but the resume is, their skill sets are. They have all the talent in the world, but you can't deal with that character. But see, here's the real deeper problem with that. If you're not expressing those expectations, what does happen is you get in someone who, well, they could have been the right person, but they're so frustrated with the fact that this feedback loop you've created doesn't include expectations. This feedback loop that you have is, I try, I miss expectations that I don't know exist, I fail, I get dinged for it, and it comes back in the process, and so my feedback loop tells me you're a failure. And so I try again, I miss expectations I didn't know I had, I get deemed a failure and get a bad review, and so I come back again with that bad review. And every time we go through this loop, what I find is no matter how well I've done the tasks of my job, no matter how many things I've accomplished in my job, no matter how many goals I've achieved in my job, I'm still deemed a failure because I'm missing some expectation I didn't know was there. Well, obviously that impacts the bottom line, that impacts employee satisfaction, and these disgruntled employees who can't seem to live up to the standards that nobody has clearly expressed, well, they quit. And so now you got a high employee turnover. And eventually that begins to reflect on you as a manager. As a manager, as a leader, let me say this to you. If you're not clear on the expectations that you have, both from a skill set, task accomplishment, and goals side, and from a character side, who is this person I'm dealing with? That's going to lead to failure on their part, which is going to reflect on the success you're trying to drive through. And if you're an entrepreneur lay that same thing over your customers and your clients, as well as your teammates and your vendors, because chances are, if you're not clear about what your expectations are, you've got people that you don't really want to do business with, that you're doing business with, where your character doesn't even resonate with them. And you've got people over here that you resonate with this character, but their tasks are not up to snuff, and you're just tolerating it. Be clear on what your expectations are. As a leader, as a manager, as an entrepreneur, be clear on what your expectations are. Clearly define them in your own head, define them in your own heart, define them on paperwork, and then make them clear to the people you expect to live up to them. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Leadership team. If attitude is going to have a deep impact on your business and bottom line, make it a positive attitude with a positive impact. Visit jlorennorris.com/attitude hack